Hello beautiful souls, welcome back to another video on Starseed Academy. My name is Jenny. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today I have a pretty interesting experience that I want to share with you. And it's definitely like a part 2 to my video, My Life on Orion, because it involves that aspect of myself when I was Avia, and it also involves details from that lifetime. So I'm just going to start at the beginning and just tell it like a story, a true story of what happened to me recently. And we'll talk about it kind of as we go through, because there's actually a lot of like deeper lessons to be gleaned from a lot of this, especially for me, obviously. So a lot of healing going on and a lot of releasing and unpacking and understanding how past lives even work. Now, this was a pretty traumatic lifetime for me. I think it was probably the most traumatic, actually, of everything that I've uncovered, which includes, being convicted, tried, and killed as a witch, and so many other different, like, either Earth lifetimes or galactic lifetimes that ended in death or tragedy or both. But if you haven't watched the Orion lifetime video yet, then I would definitely suggest stopping and going back and watching that one before you watch this video, because it's honestly just not going to make any sense, because it was so specific and it was such a difficult thing to come to terms with and uncover and work through the healing on. And so this is kind of like part 2 of how the healing is going. But it's pretty dramatic because it's me and my life, right? So here's what happened. So last night I was calling in Archangel Raphael to have like my nightly chat with him, which I've been doing lately. I tend to kind of like cycle through different guides that I work with, and he's just been someone that I've been working with for a couple of weeks really strongly, and it's been like such an incredible match. Like, when our frequency is always fluctuating, different guides are going to resonate with us more than other times, especially depending on what we're working on too, right? So anyway, I've been really working with Archangel Raphael lately. He is such an amazing counselor. He's great to just talk to about what's going on in your life. He's so great with advice. So I called him in as I was, getting into bed and getting comfortable. And before I could even ask him about, the things of the day that I wanted to talk about, he immediately said, "The Galactic Federation of Light needs you. We need to go now." And I'm like, "Oh, like right now?" He's like, "Yeah, like we need to go now." I was like, "Oh, okay." Like a little nervous, like, "Oh my God, what's going on? Am I in trouble?" No. So we kind of, I always have Archangel Michael to escort me through the 4th dimension, because they've had some experiences, and from now on he's just going to be my security detail for that. So I called in Archangel Michael, I had him on one side, Archangel Raphael on the other, and we went to the Galactic Federation of Light. When I got there, my whole team was there waiting, like all of them. And so I started to get nervous, like something big was going down, and nobody would really tell me what was up, though I could tell that they knew. Because I kept asking, like, what's going on? What am I here for? Do you guys know what's going on? And they kind of just nodded their heads, kind of like, "Ooh," non-committal, and just said, like, "It's okay. Like, it's going to be good. Like, don't worry. It's going to be okay." But they seemed a little nervous. So that wasn't really, like, calming. But anyway, so I meet with the Galactic Federation of Light. And when I do this, when I'm meeting with not a particular council, but like the heads of state, for lack of a better term, of the Galactic Federation of Light. So that's where, when there's like a leader from every star nation sitting at this like big U-shaped desk table thing, and you go up and they're all, it's kind of a little bit intimidating the first time, but it's really cool and powerful too. And they're all like sitting in their seats or whatever. And so I kind of walk up and I'm just standing in the center. And so I'm like, "Okay, I'm here, like what's going on?" And they said, "It's time for us to unlock something within you." And I was like, "Oh, like, well, that just sounds cool. Unlock some kind of knowledge or some wisdom, or like, I'm all for it." But then they pulled out this like white chair, similar in look to like a dentist chair, but obviously much more high tech. It looked like it was made out of this plastic material, and it was white and see-through. And so I'm like, okay, like trying not to be nervous. So I'm getting in this chair and like kind of positioning myself properly. And they didn't tell me what it is that they wanted to unlock, but they just said it was something that was ready to be unlocked, just to trust them, and could I do that? So I agreed, and because I agreed, then I agreed to be put into this kind of like half lucid state, almost like you're half asleep or just very tranquil, so that you're in like a trance-like deep state, but still like conscious. I could still hear everything. I just kind of like closed my eyes and went into this place. And I knew this was going to be something big, because why else would they have me sit in this chair? It was going to be something big and hard, right? Like, why else am I like reclining now in this seat and like being kind of sedated? Like, so this was, honestly, I've never experienced anything like this before. So to me now, everything is kind of just black. It's like I've just closed my eyes, but I can still hear, right? And they start saying, Avia, are you there? Avia, wake up. Avia, are you there? Avia, wake up. And I'm like, okay, because I know who that is, obviously, right? That's myself in this Orion lifetime. And so I'm kind of like hearing them say that, and I'm also the silent observer of what's going on inside of me. I'm hearing this and having my own response, but there's this other part of me that starts to stir, like starts to awaken. And I instantly turn my attention onto that, like within me. It's just so amazing how our souls work. Because there's like these like sections from different past lifetimes, like sectioned off almost. Especially in a case like this very traumatic Orion lifetime. This part of me had literally been like fractured off. And I didn't realize that, because when the Orion lifetime came back to me, this was in January of 2020. I remember telling you guys how much grieving I did. I literally cried for 3 days straight and then continued to grieve it for weeks, right? But then I kind of I did a video about it. I talked with some people about it, and then I kind of just let it go. And so now here we are again, and they're like asking this part of me to wake up. So this piece of me that was shattered off or splintered off from the whole, from the soul, I mean, it was still there, because I've heard of souls being shattered before, or having a splinter, or like a part of you being lost with trauma. And I always kind of thought that that piece of the soul went somewhere. And that, have you ever heard of soul retrieval? Because this is something that people do when, through PTSD, through like childhood or past lives, they kind of lose a part of themselves, and then soul retrieval is bringing it back in. So I kind of expected, if that were to happen, that piece of my soul would be somewhere else. I don't know where I thought it was, but I thought it would be somewhere else. I don't know where, like another timeline, reality, dimension, or whatever. But the whole time she had been in there, but in darkness, like asleep. She was just asleep, just, in darkness, in slumber, kind of turned off in a way, powered down. So they're calling her, and they're going over and over, Avia, are you in there? Avia, wake up. Avia, wake up. And then the observer of me within feels her stirring and coming to life. And as she wakes up, I feel like a lot of confusion from her. So I try to help by asking her to, repeat for me, like, do you remember who you are? What was the last thing that you remember? Do you remember your lifetime? You're safe. Like, let's kind of go through the steps of what you remember so that you can understand like how you came to be here. So as she came into her consciousness and she heard me like asking her to kind of recall, what do you remember? Like, let's talk about what you remember so far, and then I'll kind of catch you up like where you're at now, kind of thing. And so she started replaying her memories, our memories, as like a movie, but on fast forward. So it was like, so I'm glad that I knew what happened in the lifetime from before, or it would have been too much like to take all in, because it was super fast that she was flying through like everything that she could remember. And I think that's because she was anxious, right, and confused in this state. So some of the clarity that I gained from this replaying of the life on fast forward was that, if you remember in the Orion video, I said that she was kind of like, she was an avian style being, kind of blue, but not a blue avian. And I just didn't know how to describe it or what it was. I got a better look at her this time. And the only thing that I could compare it to, like on Earth, and it's galactic, right? So it's not exactly the same, but is like a peacock. So a peacock has, it has like a bit of a shorter, wider beak. And then the feathers are really flat and really shiny. So in the original video, I said I thought it almost looked like scales or like dragon style something, but it was actually these like very flat, very like shining, you know, when the light hits it and it turns different colors, like opalescent almost, these feathers. And avian beings are like a mixture of very advanced human DNA with whatever bird of their choosing. And that bird obviously would also be the most advanced that they could get it to be. And they would be able to choose their own, like the features that they wanted from it or the qualities that they wanted from it. So she is still humanoid, like still has a human shaped body, but has all of these features that are very much like this peacock, like the coloring and the beak and the feathers and everything. And her tail at the back was actually like a skirt or a train of a long dress trailing behind her. I didn't see her like lift it up like, you know, typical peacock. I don't know if that was, you know, something that was possible, but it was like almost laying like, you know, like in old fashioned dresses, so they had the bustle. There was like a bit of a bump, and then it kind of went down into this long train, and it kind of just like swooshed behind her everywhere she went. It was super beautiful and graceful. And I've seen lots of different avian beings, so I know how many different ones there are. There's, I mean, just to name a few: owls, eagles, sparrow, blue jay. I mean, there probably all of them that we would know of on Earth, and then definitely avian style beings that we would never even see on Earth, so we couldn't really name them. So then it really sped up, and I saw everything from that lifetime. I saw my father's decision to set up this marriage between me and Ignu. I saw like the tender hopefulness in us both about that marriage and for that marriage. I saw the child again being born, and then the death of the child, and the reptilian group, the large group that he was with on our planet, under his lead, rebelling against everything. And we talked about all the reasons why this happened in the Orion video. So again, I don't want to go through absolutely every detail. Please make sure you've seen that video. So the reptilians taking everything, including our ships, because I wondered last time why we couldn't leave the planet. They took everything. Like they took their own, obviously, ships, and then piloted everything else, and it was gone. There was nothing there working available for us. And then there was just great fires, just fires everywhere. Like the whole place was on fire. And then after seeing like the movie speeding up and then getting to like a world on fire, it all happened so fast, right? After that was just black, just nothingness. And so I asked her what happened when she died, because she knows that she did, I know that she did, but there was no memory of that. There was no crossing over into the light. And she didn't remember anything like that. She just said there was nothing. There was just blackness, and there was nothing. There was just me in my grief and crying and then there was nothing, and it's like she just went to sleep. So again, I truly believe that this is a piece of my soul being like splintered off through this intense trauma. And remember, she went through so much. She lost her child, her husband, her family, her kingdom, and then the entire planet, all within a matter of weeks. Like it was too much, way too much for one soul to bear. And so that piece kind of like splintered off in a sense of going dormant. Like it just turned off. And that's all she remembers, just nothing. So the rest of my soul, me, obviously continued on, and had, had other incarnations planned for other lifetimes, all of that. Meanwhile, this whole aspect of myself, this character, this person that I was not a part of any of that for such a long time now. So here I am with the Galactic Federation of Light at their big headquarters, their center. I won't pretend to understand the technology behind that. I don't even know if the chair really even had anything to do with it. I feel like it did, because it was very detailed, and there was a lot of different segments and controls on it. So maybe. But on my end, as the experiencer, all I experienced was laying down, kind of falling slightly into a half sleep state, hearing them calling her and hearing her stir and wake up, and then her and I within me having this silent conversation interaction. And that's it. After that, her and I, in real time, I was still in my human self in my bed, right? So we experienced this soul retrieval, because I think that's what this was, and then we both fell asleep after her playing that fast-forwarded movie and explaining to me that she doesn't remember anything past that, no crossing over, nothing. And then she fell asleep, and actually I remember I was holding on to her, we were holding on to each other in an embrace, and then we both just fell asleep from exhaustion. So this is where it gets really weird. So I woke up in my bed, Jenny, human, third dimensional Earth, here we are in real life. I woke up in my bed in the middle of the night because something was so loud that it woke me up. And it was this person, sobbing, beyond sobbing, screaming, crying, sobbing, losing it. It was so loud that it woke me up, and it was also so loud that my brain interpreted it into a different weird dream. So you know how when you're sleeping, if there's a show that comes on and your brain is hearing the dialogue or whatever, it creates a weird story in your dream to make sense of that. It's really weird. So that's what happened. So Avia was grieving so hard, sobbing so hard and screaming, and she kept repeating, I've lost a part of myself, or I'm missing parts of myself. Something along the lines of, I'm missing parts of myself. I've lost these parts of myself. I'm not whole. And she just kept repeating it and repeating it. And it was so loud that my brain made it into this weird dream of this robot who was upset because it was missing parts of itself, physical, attachments of itself. So I woke up really confused, kind of had the robot dream in the first thing, and I'm like, what? And then I realized it was still going. I could still hear her, and I realized it was her. And how could that be coming from inside me? When it's so loud, it feels like it filled the whole room. And not only that, but my brain heard it, the subconscious outside of being awake, and had to spin some weird dream. That's how loud it was. It was so wild. And she was talking about all of the things that she'd lost, obviously, her child first and foremost, but her planet, that was so huge, right? More than anything, more than her own death, more than her people, her kingdom, her family. It was the planet. That's the entire home. That's everything, right? How do you even grieve something so huge? Because I don't think that you can ever go back to that. How can you recreate something that's been destroyed at that level? I don't know. I don't know exactly how that works, but she was just beyond consoling her. I could not console her. I tried to hold her. I tried to tell her she was safe. Nothing was helping. And so I started to like panic a little bit, a lot bit. And I instantly called back Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael. And I said, we need to go back. Like, something is wrong. We need to go back to the Galactic Federation and figure this out. We cannot leave her in this state. We cannot leave me in this broken state. Like, we need to fix this. So when we arrived, they were expecting us and they were prepared. And this time, instead of a chair, they had this healing bed, like the bed that I described in the Pleiadian Doctors and Scientists, that video, the healing pod bed thing. It was white and it was like this medical bed. That's exactly what it was. And so they had me and her, like when we got there, it kind of felt like we were two people, like holding on to each other, than her just being inside me. She started feeling more real. So her and I got in like the bed together, smushed together, like holding on to each other. And then the child that she lost is my current guide, William, who is this beautiful, soft, gentle angel from the angelic realms. And he climbed in with us. And like, she recognized him right away. And he like went from being this like full-sized angel, like into this tiny little baby, and she was like holding him, and I was just like in awe of this. They were like reconnecting and rebonding in that way, and that really did soothe her. So we're in this medical bed pod thing, all three of us, and the whoever, I think it was Pleiadians that were like running the healing bed. They had us all three in there together, and then they had this like, it looked like a laser. Again, I could never know what the technologies were because they don't exist on Earth, but it looked like this laser, and they beamed it on all three of us. So it was one color on all three of us, and it was fusing us back together. And my mind saw it like this heart with like a crack down the center, and I was on this side of the heart and Avia was on this side, and we were like fusing back together. Like, again, I think this is a part of soul retrieval. And it was so powerful. I felt it physically and energetically, but also very emotionally. Like, I really felt that coming together. And so they were telling us that we were both going to feel more clarity, more aware, like that awake feeling, more clarity and more awareness as the whole being that we should be. So, because I think she was a little worried that she was going to lose herself in me, and they assured her that she wasn't going anywhere, that in fact she would feel like more of herself. So that's really interesting, because you're taking two what seem like separate people, putting them together, yet they both are going to feel more like themselves than they have before, and more whole and more powerful and more clear and more aware and more healed. Like, it was going to be equally helpful to us both. So this makes me think of when we go back to source. You know, you hear of people saying like, well, before we started our incarnations, we were source. And then when we're done, like if we ever choose to end the soul journey of exploration and lessons, then we have every opportunity, like at any point really, we can go back and join source again. And I know that I used to feel this way too, but I know a lot of people feel afraid of that because they feel like they would lose their individuality, like lose their personality and preferences, and like be just absorbed by this higher mind and lose themselves in it. So I kind of think it would be like this though, where we both felt more like ourselves. We actually felt more alive, more individual, more like ourselves than ever before. So somehow it works like that. You become more of you, actually, not less. And I believe that that's going to be what it feels like to fuse back with source on a much larger scale than me fusing like a soul retrieval fuse, like a soul splinter that I'm fusing back together and like waking back up and like healing. And like, I don't even know. Like, I honestly just feel like speechless at a lot of this, because it's like, you talk about soul work. This is literally like working on the soul in this very physical level. And I don't really know what to expect from the coming days or weeks or months, or like, how is this going to change me? You know, I'm really interested to see that. So after the healing session in the bed, we stayed laying in the bed for a while, and they weren't lasering us anymore. Like, they were done. And she felt a ton better, like really calm and like so much better. And we were still holding each other. And I asked her if she could to start thinking about the past and the trauma in a higher way. Like, think about it instead of like the victim mentality and feeling so like torn up by it. Can we start to look at it from a place of the lessons that we learned? What did we gain from this experience, right? Because I know to do that from healing all kinds of different trauma, including like a very dark childhood. I know how to do that, and that's something that I could offer to her. So I started showing her like how my mind wraps around it, and she started getting the hang of it, of how to see, okay, what did I receive from this experience? So then we went down another trip down memory lane, still laying in this bed together, and this super speed movie again. But this time, all of the montage of her life was all of the beautiful moments. Like holding her baby boy for the first time, and the love of her parents and her brother, and her people and the planet and the beauty and her childhood, on like her whole life. And it was just so fast, it just fit in this tiny little moment, and it was so full and so beautiful. And I was so happy and proud of her that she could now have that. She deserves to have those memories, right? And then all of a sudden, the Council of Orion stood up. Because remember, we're still in that Galactic Federation meeting place, even though we're just like having our moment laying in this bed together. They're still all around us. And so like, it was like over in this area, these like 3 or 4 beings stood up, and also avian. Interesting, right? Like, oh, so avian on Orion, which is amazing, but different ones though, not peacock. And they stood up, and they all saluted her. Because remember, she would have been like they didn't really have royal titles, but for Earth terms, her parents were like the king and queen, and then she was this like princess or whatever, getting married, and you know, would be still like considered a big leader of that place, of that planet. So they stood up and they saluted her, and they spoke of her grace and strength in the end. Like at the end, in those moments, even though she was so terribly broken apart, she continued to be a source of comfort to all of her subjects, like all of her people, everyone around her. And that made me so like teary-eyed for her. Like, she was finally getting everything that she needed, right? Like, I know that the healing journey is not over, but this was huge. She had William, she had good memories, she had this healing, and then on top of that, these beautiful people from Orion stood up, and she recognized them too. Her brother was one of them, Othala, because he is on the Orion Council of Light. And then these other 3 powerful like guides, these higher beings from this time, right, that are serving still on Orion's council. So she recognized them, and she was very moved by this. And then she turned to me, and also at the same time showed me this extra little memory that I didn't know of. And it was a memory where Ignu offered to take her with him. So she had an out. She didn't have to burn on the planet with everyone else and die like that. but she was like going down with the ship. And she had zero, like in that, I felt in that memory, like she had absolutely no interest in going with him. Like there was not even a question or a doubt in her mind that she was going to stay. And she knew what that meant, that they were all going to die. And she chose that, and she chose to be that pillar of strength even after everything. Like it's just crazy. And that also really showed me that she had really worked her way into his heart. And I said that to her. I'm like, for him to even offer you that, like, even though he did it not in a like super loving way, it was like an angry suggestion, but for him to even offer that, then he still had a lot of love and caring in his heart for her. He does have a heart, right? And she got her way in there. So that is a huge lesson in itself. And I know we've talked about the different kinds of reptilians before, especially in the video, the Reptilian Council of Light. You meet a lot of the reptilians that are working for the light, for the balance, for humanity, for ascension. They're about service to others instead of service to self, right? So the opposite of Ignu. But for him to make that tiny little suggestion, effort, whatever, it just goes to show that they do have hearts. You know, that even though they're cold and like grown over, there's still those sparks of love in there. Everyone has the potential for change and for growth, and you never know when it's going to happen, right? A soul can change after hundreds of lifetimes being one way. They can suddenly wake up and see what they really need to do to change. So it's never too late, and you never want to write off someone ever. And that was just like a huge moment of confirming that for me, because I already feel that way, but that was a beautiful way to confirm it. And then just see this beautiful being, Avia, like standing in her courage and just flatly turning that down and going right to taking care of people. It was beautiful. So another lesson to come out of this new ending, or part 2 of this lifetime as Avia, is that I already grieved this. Like I said, this was January of 2020 when this came up. So like a year and a month ago now. And healing is not linear. It's not. You're going to come back around and back around and back around. I don't know if you've noticed this yet. Let me know if you have, actually, in the comments. I'd really like to read that. Are you coming back around to similar issues, similar pain? Maybe not as specific like a past lifetime coming back up, but childhood, I mean, that's just like a past lifetime. There's not that much difference. It kind of feels like you were another person, right? But every time it comes back around, you go deeper. If you want to, you have the opportunity to go even deeper and deeper and deeper with the healing. So this takes incredible amounts of patience, because trauma, no matter how you've experienced it, we all have experienced it. Everyone has their own unique trauma. I've never met a person that doesn't have trauma that they're carrying, right? In their hearts, usually. Trauma shatters you. It shatters a piece of you. And it requires great patience, gentleness, compassion, dedication to that healing and fusing yourself back together into wholeness. So once you work on the healing of your childhood, most people, this is how it goes. You have a spiritual awakening, and then you start deep diving into healing your childhood, which is generally around the time of your first or second dark night of the soul, but you're usually going to have a dark night of the soul during that healing process, because there is so much pain, trauma, limiting beliefs, and things to unpack, and that come up to be dealt with. So this definitely sends us into like a tailspin of anxiety or depression or PTSD or all of it, or addiction. And once you get a really good handle on that childhood, meaning that it's come back around for healing more than once, a couple of times at least, right? And you've deepened the healing, deepened it. Once you've achieved that, your healing journey will naturally progress into the next evolutionary stage, which is going to be a past life. So who knows which one will come through first, but the one that comes through first is the one that is in need of healing the most. Because our souls know that we want to raise our vibration, and that's what we're here to do. So they are going to push forward the past life that's dragging you down the most. Because in healing it, you're going to be able to raise up your vibration, and then the next lifetime, and you're going to work your way through your past lifetimes. That's how it works. So if you're not in past lifetime healing yet, get into your childhood a little bit deeper. Bring that back around for another session of healing. And you'll see, like, it will naturally it will progress into past lives. It will come up. You'll be surprised how it comes up so clearly. It's like a knowingness. You just know it. And depending on your psychic gifts, we all have psychic gifts. It's just that some of us lean towards some more than others. So if you're not clairaudient and you don't hear it, or clairvoyant and you don't see it, maybe you just know it. It's like a download, and you just have a past life dumped on you. Or clairsentient, where you feel it, where you feel your way through it. There are so many different ways for it to come through, so stay aware. And like I said, expect it once you've really gotten a handle on the childhood healing. And like I mentioned in the Earth Mission video, your Earth Mission Explained, and I've mentioned it in other videos as well, what we're getting from this lifetime on Earth, because we're not all service, we're not give. My ears. Hold on. I'm not sure if I'm receiving something or it's just something entered my space. But when spirit enters your space, the air pressure in the, definitely. The air pressure, I don't know who it is yet, but somebody's, come in for a visit. The air pressure in the room will change when spirit enters into your space. I feel it in my ears, like I'm on a plane, like I just want to do this and pop my ears. And some people feel it in their sinuses, in their heads. You can feel it differently, but it's an air pressure change because this either very high vibrational being or very low vibrational being, depending on who you have visiting you, has entered into your space and changed the frequency of it. And you're kind of like, oh, I felt that, right? So I don't know who that is yet, but we'll see after, I guess. What was I talking about? Okay, yes. So we are here on the planet right now to receive healing and transformation of multiple lifetimes packed into one. That's why it's so intense. That's why we can accomplish all of these healings through multiple past lifetimes. I don't think it's always like that in an incarnation. Certainly not to this extent. The reason why we have that opportunity on Earth right now is because the energies on Earth right now are ascension energies. We're going through a huge transformation and evolution of consciousness. Now, this has to do with a lot of technical details about the 26,000 year precession cycle, the placement of Earth, solar flares, the Schumann resonance. There's a lot to it, and I have lots of videos on that, but I am sure, though I can't see, I am sure this video has gone on long enough, and I have a visitor waiting, so I'm going to get going. But I just wanted to let you know that it's a gift, this level of healing, because however deep you're willing to go, it will go with you. Like if I want to just continue moving through lifetimes after lifetimes, I can continue on this healing journey. I can stop whenever I've had enough, or I can just keep going and keep going and keep going. Achieving like 10, 12, 15 lifetimes worth of evolution, lessons, growth, and healing in one incarnation as Jenny. And like I've said multiple times, like I'm here for it. I'm going for it. Because the more I do that healing and transformation, the more I bring it for everyone else, right? Because we're so attached to the collective consciousness of humanity. We came in and we're attached to it. You can't not be because you're in a human. All humans Every species has their own collective. The avian beings that we were talking about, they would have a collective. The Pleiadians, humanity has this collective. We infiltrated into the collective by being born into it so that we could affect it from within. And that's the only way, right? Kind of like a glitch in the matrix or a virus in a computer, but a good one of light and healing and transformation and raising the vibration of the collective so that we can achieve balance, right? And again, this is not about eradicating the darkness in any way, shape, or form. You need light and you need shadow, but at this time on Earth, the shadow is overarching over top of the light. We need to come back up. Same with the divine feminine versus divine masculine. We need to bring these elements, these divine elements up and have balance. This is where peace exists, harmony, an evolved society, evolved awareness, consciousness, and all of a sudden we start realizing how to work together and do things differently. And before you know it, we are a golden age society like Earth has seeded before, like Lemuria, like Atlantis, like Avalon. So I'm going to leave it there for you today. It was completely, I don't even know, like wild, dramatic, exhausting experience, but I feel really interested in where it's leading. Really excited to see that, right? So anyway, please like this video. Please remember to check out part 1, My Life on Orion. Please share this video if you'd like to, if you want to. But most of all, I'm going to ask you to subscribe because I do new videos every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and I really appreciate your subscription. I really want to grow this community. And I always read your comments, and I usually reply to all of them. I don't think I usually miss one. And if I do, just comment again. I'll see you because I love interacting with you like that. So I'm going to leave my link in the description box below for you to come find me. Come find me and follow me on Instagram. Or come find me and sign up to be a client. I'd love to work with you one-on-one. And there are lots of services that I offer that you can check out there. So thank you so much. And before I go, I want to remind you, listen to your heart and the quiet voice within, because you are so much more than the body you are in. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.